Welcome to the Girl Power Alliance podcast, where you're going to meet and hear from some inspiring women with incredible stories who are leading in business and in faith. We are on a mission to impact the world by empowering women to dream bigger through kingdom-minded mentoring and leadership. This is where women grow. Welcome back to the Girl Power Alliance podcast. I don't know how to even express my feelings for my guest today on the podcast. I'm going to read her bio and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. She's a very longtime friend of mine, Catherine. This is Catherine Schiffer. She is not just a survivor, she is a thriver. When you hear her story, you're going to be so inspired. And she started her life in 1968. In those formative years, she was raised by a sexual predator and a mother with severe mental illness. Her young life was filled with daily sexual, emotional, physical, and spiritual abuse. Her journey from there brought her face to face with countless obstacles, and she was stuck in a cycle of self-abuse for many years. She battled drug and alcohol abuse, 2 failed marriages, and many dysfunctional relationships in between. She's raised 4 kids along this journey, and they had to grow up really fast, as you can imagine, which so did she, by the way. As she approached her 40s, something shifted and she knew it was time to change or die. She surrendered her life to Jesus, and that's when her life took an entirely new and profound meaning. She walked through the doors of recovery and began the daunting journey of undoing all the wreckage of her life. And now at 51, if you're watching the YouTube channel, there's no way you're going to believe she's 51. She can say that she is free of substance abuse, bitterness, and free to love herself and others. She is a wildly successful business owner. She's a life coach, an award-winning athlete, a mentor to many, and she is the CEO of a nonprofit called One Voice, One Mission. Her commitment in this life is to now take the gifts she has been given and share them with others, supporting men and women to break free from the continual cycle of self-abuse that arise from a tormented childhood. She gives all the credit to her Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and she has a book coming out like any minute. And, I read this bio and it just doesn't even touch who this amazing woman really is, even with all those accomplishments. She is a dear friend. She has a heart of gold. And if you just met her today, you would never know that her life was so hard, that she's walked through so many things. So, Catherine, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you for having me.
I just am so excited to share so many different parts about your story. And I know I just read your bio, but I would love if there's other things, like if somebody's just listening and they hear that bio, what else can you tell them about who you are and what you're doing?
About who I am today and what I'm doing today. Today my life is very exciting. It's constantly new doors are opening and things are God's just blowing my mind with what He's been doing in my life. And the biggest thing right now is the book. As we prepare to launch that and get that out into the public, it's been a book that's been on my heart since I was 12. And it obviously it wasn't time until it was time. And I had to be in a place where I could share the solution, because we all have problems and a lot of people, talk about their problems, but what we hear very little of these days is solution. And so what I wanted to bring with the book was not just the problem, but I wanted to bring solution and I wanted to bring hope. And so that's what is super exciting for me today is the book. And then the nonprofit, which is my baby and which is just still in its infancy stages. But we are, our goal is to bring curriculum into our classrooms, which teach safe touch. We have taught our children for a very long time about stranger danger. And it's unfortunate but true that it's most likely not going to be a stranger who is sexually abusing your child. It's more likely going to be someone they know and someone they have come to trust. So that is the shift that we're making with this whole conversation around keeping our children safe is how do you protect them without instilling fear, without making them afraid to walk through life, but giving them power to speak up when someone has come into their life that everybody loves, right? Because what my predator was, he was a deacon in a church. He was his family stood behind him. He was loved by the community. But, and here I was saying that he was this other person. And so how do we give our children the power to come against that when they're 8? It's a very fine line. So that's where we're at is figuring out how we can make it written, and it's ready to go into the schools, and getting the schools to adopt this curriculum is another beast in itself.
Yeah.
So that is where we're at with the two biggest things going on in my life in regards to my passion. And those are my passions is creating wellness in others, body, mind, and soul.
And you're doing that. You do so many things. I'm trying to think of exactly where I want to go with this podcast, because we could do a whole podcast on every little area of your of your life. Let's go. I'm going to roll backwards slightly. So, you basically would you say you committed or you recommitted your life to Christ in your late 30s, right before you entered your 40s?
Yeah. So I was saved when I was 18, and I don't know about others, but when I was taught about salvation, I was taught that when you're saved, you become a new person. And if you don't immediately become this new person, then you're probably not saved. Mm-hmm. So I spent my whole life thinking I wasn't saved because I couldn't stop doing the things I was doing. So I was constantly moving in and out of a relationship with God. And it was at 39 that when I decided to get sober, I started getting sober when I was 29, from 14 to 29, I was a meth addict. And I came to my knees with that, and the Lord brought me into recovery through a stint in jail, which is in the book. You'll read about that. And but unfortunately, I didn't think alcohol was a drug, and so I continued to drink through my 30s. And at 39, I realized that my life was headed straight back to where it was in my 20s. And that if I didn't do something. And so I found this program called Celebrate Recovery at my church. I used to, when you go to church, you put on this mask, right? And it's like, I'm good. And you never really tell people how you are because, oh my God, they might think you're a sinner. And so I would walk by this booth at our church, and it said Celebrate Recovery. And I would take a peek at it. But one day I just grabbed a pamphlet and ran it out as fast as I could. And I read through it and realized that this was somewhere God was calling me. So I walked through the doors of Celebrate Recovery in June of 2006. And, but I didn't go and start until January 7th of 2007. I still thought I could do it on my own. And I didn't want to admit I was an alcoholic because that was the last thing I had, right? Like alcohol, you take that away, then I have nothing to cover the pain. But it was there that I came to believe that I'm addicted to everything, and I can become addicted to chalk if it altered me from the neck up. And I rededicated my life to the Lord because, and then started finding a God of my own understanding, because I was leaning on the God of their understanding, my mom and my stepdad. And that God didn't serve me because he was a God of vengeance. And I thought he was just trying to kill me my whole life. Like he was just waiting for me to do something wrong so he could strike me dead. And the God that I found in the doors of recovery was not that God. It was a God of grace, a God of mercy, a God who loved us so much that he sacrificed his life for us. And he's always as close as our knees. He never turns away from us. So it was there that I rededicated my life. And the journey, from there, it's been 39, 49, 13 years. almost that, it's been a journey, I haven't done it perfectly, but, if I take one step back, I always take two steps forward.
Yeah. Well, I think that um, addict or not, so many people can relate to you feeling like that about God, just God being this like angry father over in the corner waiting to punish you.
Yeah.
And I believe that that is something that is happening in the world right now. That's being broken free. I believe that. I believe there's a big shift in the church, and the lies that religion has put on people to keep us in this. And I think people, but it's the enemy, keep us in this place of shame and fear and masked.
Yeah.
That is what the enemy wants. And what our what our daddy, he loves us exactly the way they are. I just
Yeah.
know this as a parent. My kids do stuff and it's not always great, and sometimes it makes me sad, sometimes it makes me mad, but I never go after them with vengeance. I
Right.
always want to just love them and help them to either heal or kind of fix the mess or whatever. And that's the perfect picture of how our Father loves us.
Yeah. I think that too is the disconnect for children who are raised in homes with that kind of, with parents who aren't loving and kind and affectionate. So trying to relate to a God who is like a parent, where try to look at him as a parent, but then we didn't have parents that emulated who he is. And so that creates a disconnect for people. And that was a big disconnect for me. But the way I found the way I can relate is when I had children. And then I was able to take how I felt about them and turn it around and go, and this is how God feels about me. When I found when I got married to my husband Adam, who, obviously I said I had a couple of failed marriages, but it's in this marriage that I watch the way he loves me, and I'm able to see Jesus's love through him.
Mm.
So I was able to find that love through others and through loving my children.
Yeah, same. I can understand that much more than the other way. So that
Right.
same, it's really stretched me. You've
Yeah.
done a lot of different things. You've been wildly successful in your field, which your field has been real estate, property management for a number of years. But alongside of that, you've also you are a champion fitness competitor. And so I like you said earlier, you said you're addicted to everything. Did you get addicted to fitness?
I'm addicted to fitness.
If that's
Right.
the addiction, that's not a bad one, is it? Or is it?
No, I don't think so. I have many tools in my toolbox that to help me live my best life, and fitness is one of them, because there's spiritual fitness, there's emotional fitness, and there's physical fitness. And for me, physical fitness and mental fitness go hand in hand.
Yes.
When I know that I need to get up every morning and sit with the Father, and then I know I need to go work out. And if I do those two things on a daily basis, I will have a great day.
Yeah,
And
that's awesome. So that's your worship time.
it is my worship time. I built my business on the back of a bicycle, riding through the towns of Temecula with worship music and praying. So it's in my fitness. And I've had my best downloads for the book, for reconciling relationships, in the gym.
Oh, it's so true. I have chills when you said that. It's the same for me. Like if I feel really mucked up or just like blocked or depressed, I run. Like
Yeah.
literally, it's like somebody like just rips the tape off and I just feel
Right.
like a person again.
Yeah, it's God has given us a wonderful gift of they're called endorphins. They are our happy pills. Yeah,
That's our good drug.
those are good drugs.
Just if we took that element alone, just the fact that you are a champion fitness competitor, that element alone would tell people a ton about you, because it takes an enormous commitment. It takes consistency. It takes courage, and just to transform your body to a place that you can stand up to be judged, and not just to stand up and be judged, but to stand up and be judged and win. And you weren't doing it in your 20s. You started in your 40s.
I did. My first show was when I was 42. Yeah, I am competitive, and that is one of my curses and blessings, and it can, and as long as I'm using it in a way that's healthy and it's not to compete against you, I use it, I'm competing against me. How much better can I be today than I was yesterday? And that's what competing gave me. It gave me a platform to just be, to completely, to all the time be propelling forward. And if things had been different as a child, I've always had that competitive nature, but it was muted, and it was muted by drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
And when I was younger and when I was in school, I remember playing volleyball, and I excelled. I was like I was going to be the captain of the team, but then my mom, we had to move, and I probably moved 25 times in my childhood. So and I was a baton twirler, and I was in that a couple of weeks before I became the banner girl. So I always take it to the extreme, and I always move up to the top. And that I've reined that in and allowed it to become a healthy part of my life. And so when I was 42, I had been sober for 3-4 years. I was coming out of a bad marriage, and I was introduced to the sport. And I've always loved to exercise. And I didn't initially start it thinking I'm gonna get on stage and compete in high heels and a bikini. But as I started to transform, the idea, my competitive nature came out, and I decided to do it. And I won first place. And I wasn't expecting that, And once I had that win, it just became a desire for me to continue to move forward. And I saw how much, people are drawn to that. They're drawn to that. What are you doing? And, I feel that it's given me a platform to not only share what I'm doing in my physical life, but it's given me a platform to share with what I'm doing in every area of my life. So God has used it to open the doors to many different things. And not only that I'm living my healthiest life ever at 51.
I mean, you just look great. And you are currently, as we're recording this, you're training for another show.
Yes. So I have a show coming up June 27th and July 27th. So I'm looking at 2 shows.
What? I didn't know that.
Yeah. I figured I might as well just do them while I'm prepped.
Well, as long as I'm allowed to be in a public place, I will be there.
And hopefully they won't get rescheduled, because one already has.
Oh gosh, I hope not. Well, for those of you that are looking, if you're watching the YouTube video, you can see how beautiful she is. If you're listening on a podcast, you can find her. She has a fitness page called Fit Over 40. Is that what it's called?
It's Fitness After 40.
Fitness After 40. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And she shares tips and lots of great inspirational stuff. And then you get to see her just incredible physique that she's worked so hard on. So that's one way you can. At the end, I'll have you tell everybody how they can find you everywhere. But in addition to that's a big component. We do a whole podcast on your fitness, but in addition to that, you've been extraordinarily successful and have had a property management business for how many years?
So we've been in business since 2005. So 14 years, I think.
Yeah, she's we have a very successful business here in the valley that we live in.
Yeah.
And as a real estate agent, you've kind of just slightly shifted gears, but you're just doing like amazing in the real estate world.
Yeah. Yeah. So that has been, so I am, again, I'm a GED girl. I got my GED with a 2-year-old at my side and a baby on my hip. And that was in my early 20s. And I was a stay-at-home mom, and that, domestic engineer, and I did go to Merritt College, and I got a little front office degree for medical, thinking I would go into the medical field. But as I progressed through my 20s, my addiction just got worse and worse. And it finally had a tipping point, and I moved in a different direction. And I was introduced to the world of property management in 1997, and I excelled. I went into the industry as answering phones on the weekends, and within 6 months, I was managing 88 units. Within a year and a half, I was managing 250 units. And then from there, I just, and winning multiple awards in this industry. And again, I'm just like, they would ask me, the corporate office would come in and they'd say, what are you doing? And I said, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just showing up, and I'm just doing it. And, but I have the ability to connect with people, and so, again, even in my sick times, because again, when I got off the methamphetamine, I was still drinking, so I was still struggling internally, but I was moving forward. And in 2000, and I always have been an entrepreneur spirit. So my children can tell you that I've come home with Jafra, I'm going to be a millionaire. Tupperware, going to be a millionaire. Quick Start, Amway, you name it. It's this is it, kids. We're going to make a million. Because I'm the kind of person I'll work 80 hours a week, but I want to work on my time and in my way, because I want to have the time to be a mom, and I want to have the time to go to football games, and I want to have the time to do the things that I enjoy doing. And so I've had this entrepreneur spirit. So in 2005, I was introduced to a broker at my church and talked to him about property management. And property management in Temecula was non-existent. There was 3 companies. And because people didn't move to Temecula to rent, they moved here to buy. Yeah. In 2000, in the late 90s, early 2000s. So but a few months later, fast forward, he comes to me and says, let's talk. So we talked, we set up some systems. 2005 of September of 2005, we started the company. And through 2006, we built out our systems while I was working full-time on a building here in Temecula as a property manager. And in 2007, I had put an ad in the Yellow Pages, if you remember the Yellow Pages. And in March of 2007, everybody knows what happened, right? The economy burst and the bubble burst. And all of a sudden we were house prices were declining. We were in a crisis. And so I had just put that ad in the Yellow Pages, and my phone in my office at my property my cell phone began blowing up. Can I talk to you about managing my property? Can I talk? And I'm working 40 hours already. So I remember the day I was in my car driving to the bank to make a deposit. And I said, God, how am I going to do this? I can't afford to quit my day job yet because I only had like 5 properties. But I couldn't tell people, oh, I'm working a full-time job. I can't meet you until 6, because then they wouldn't think they had my full attention. So I was driving to the bank. I was praying that prayer. When I got home from the bank, when I got back to the office from the bank, my regional manager was at the property. And she said, can I talk to you? And I went into the office and she goes, I hear you own a property management company. And I said, well, yes, if you can call it that. I manage a few single family homes in the Valley. She goes, well, that's a conflict of interest. And I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't. I apologize. So we're going to put you on leave. And you're going to go home for the next 3 days, and we're going to investigate whether or not you've been stealing clients who are coming and looking at apartments and saying, hey, I got this 3-bedroom in Temecula. And I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. I haven't been doing that. So I'm just go home for 3 days. Well, on the 3rd day, I got a phone call saying I was fired. Oh. And I literally was on my floor. I've never been fired. I needed this job. And I was crying out to God, what am I going to do? How is this going to work? And I went on unemployment. I took off all my nails. I went and bought hair dye out of the box. And I just went down to the bare necessities. And within 1 year, by March of 2008, I had 100 properties.
Wow.
Because I was able to stay home every day and answer my phone and dig into that business. And so God did for me what I couldn't do for myself. And I was take me to a place where I could become successful. And, and that's what, as we go through this COVID-19 thing, I just, God will do for us what we can't do for ourselves. Prior to this happening, he closed the doors on my office in Temecula, where I was paying $1,000 a month in rent. That door closed a month before COVID-19 hit.
Oh, wow.
So again, God doing for us what we can't do for ourselves. And he just, whatever, he can take that, he takes what we think is a catastrophe and he can turn it into something. He will turn it into something amazing and magnificent if we trust in him. So that's how I got to where I am now, 14 years in business, one of the most successful property management companies. We all know small businesses don't, last past 3 years. They're going to last. So this has been a God thing, and it was him who brought me to this place.
So many times I almost cried. I'm trying to not cry because we're on camera, but we were just doing an audio. I could mute and have my little cry. But you're so inspiring. And, I've known Catherine for a number of years, and I want to talk about your book in a second, but to know the things that she has gone through and to see her ability to continue to be joyful, to go out in the world and want to serve others, to have a heart that loves, to be so just personally motivated for herself to keep going and to keep going. An obstacle comes, oh crap, all right, well, we'll figure out under, over, through. That's just who you are. And so you are impacting so many lives just in the community with who you have been, just who you have been, just as a woman, as a lover of people, as somebody that's tried to turn her own pain into something that can help ease somebody else's burden. And so you have your book. So tell people about your book, the name of your book, where they can find your book.
Okay. So the book is called Pieces of Me, A Daughter of Mental Illness. The book can be found on Amazon. It can be found at catherineschiffer.com, and it will be available in June so it's really soon here. It'll be launched, and you'll be able to find it. Now the book has been on my heart for a long time, and it started 3.5 years ago. I was angry. I was very, very angry. So my predator is passed away, but the enabler is still alive. And I will tell you that every pedophile has an enabler. If you look at Epstein, Weinstein, all of these, they've all had people who have been protecting them. So it is the MO to have an enabler. So my enabler was my mother, and she is alive, and she still denies that anything ever happened. So 3.5 years ago, I've tried over the years to have just some kind of relationship, right? Just how can we make this work without it getting messy every single time? But unfortunately, it gets messy every single time. And I have to get to a place where it's safer for me and my family just to shut the door. Well, 3.5 years ago, the door got cracked open, and I was in a place where I was saying, okay, are you better? Can we maybe do something here? And unfortunately, she's still the same. And so I was so angry. And in my heart, I'm like, fine, you're not going to admit it. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to tell the world. And that's how the book started. And what I want to share with you is it doesn't matter how it starts. It matters how it finishes.
Yes.
Because even God can take it. Doesn't matter where your heart was over here. God will take it to where he plans on it being. So through the last 3.5 years, and the reason it took me so long is because I was so angry, and I couldn't publish a book angry. We all know that. I didn't know that, but as I moved through the process, I did. And as I moved through each piece of the book, I would have to lay it down for 3 or 4 months as I was bringing, you'll find that the beginning of the book is going to be a harder read than the end of the book, because you have to know in order to know how amazing God is and what he can do, you have to see how crappy it was.
Yeah.
And so the book starts off hard to read, I admit it. But as you move through, you will just come to find that we have an amazing God. And so I would lay the book down, and then I would find healing. And he would take me, just a little piece of me at a time. He would just heal that piece. And as I got to the end of the book, I had to finally get to a place where I wasn't angry anymore. I had to come to a place where they say true forgiveness is remembering without pain. And I had to get to a place where I could remember without pain. And I wasn't there. For 49 years, I remembered with pain. And so as I was working out in the gym, I actually just recently read a book by Priscilla Schreier, and she said that not only are we to forgive, but we're also to have compassion.
Ooh.
And I'm like, what? Now, really? Compassion? I thought all I had to do was forgive. So I was praying and praying and praying. And many times people have said to me, do you think that possibly your mother is mentally ill? And I said, no, she's calculated and cruel, and she knows exactly what she's saying and doing. And I would not give her a mental illness plea, because a mental illness plea means you get to go to a cushy hospital, right? You don't have to go to jail for your sentence. So I wasn't going to give her any cush. But as the last year kind of continued to proceed, more people were saying this to me. And so I began to ask God, I said, God, please, 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 if I'm supposed to have compassion, you're going to have to be the one that does this, because I, in my flesh, I can't find compassion for her. So one day I was working out at the gym, and I was praying, and the Lord just said to me, baby, your mother is mentally ill.
Mm.
And from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet, a fresh new awareness and acceptance washed through my body. And I was finally able to accept that she is mentally ill. Mm. And in that acceptance is where I found deliverance. And I was able to come to a place where I didn't own it. She didn't hate me. She doesn't, I owned every name calling session. I owned every horrible thing she said about me. It was my identity for a long, long time. Her words created my identity. And I was able to finally come to a place where I didn't allow her words to be my identity anymore, and come to an acceptance. And when I was able to get to that piece, I was able to finish the book. The book probably was finished 6 months later. So in this book, I was healed. And even towards the end, I said, okay, God, maybe this book was just for me. Maybe it's not for the world. Maybe I don't need to publish it, because when I started the book, it was to tell the world everything that she did to me. And now at the end of the book, it's to tell the world everything God has done for me. But I still wasn't convinced that I was going to publish this book until I was with my 14-year-old grandson. I have 7 grandkids, by the way. And my oldest is 14. And we were in the kitchen a few months ago, and he was asking me questions about my past and about his mom's past. And because my children struggled with an addicted mother. And so they obviously have had their own challenges that they've had to face. And so my grandson was asking me these questions. And as I was answering these questions in a way that would be good for a 14-year-old, the Lord said to me, this book is to be published, and it is going to be passed down generation to generation to generation in your bloodline. You are not only going to have a healing, I'm not only going to have a healing effect in this generation, but I'm going to have a healing effect in generations to come. Mm. And we are, this curse goes, the Bible tells us that the generations, when they hold on to this pain and it rolls down from generation to generation. Well, I am stopping it in my generation, and I'm passing it down to my great, 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 great grandkids. And they will know in 3020 who this Catherine Schiffer was and what their grandma did, and how she was able to make it with Jesus Christ. So I'll be telling future generations about our Lord and Savior.
Wow. That is awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm just like trying to hold it together. I've read several of the first chapters, and when she says it's hard to read, it's because of the pain. She is a wonderful writer. She paints a very beautiful, painful picture of what she's gone through. Sorry. Being her friend, it's hard to read.
Yeah,
to know.
I know.
what she's gone through. But to know what she's gone through and to know her today is such a testimony to, the love and healing power of Jesus. And I know it's not just for your family.
Yeah.
It's for a lot of people.
Yeah,
I'm so excited.
Me too.
I know I don't sound excited or look excited. I'm so excited.
I love you. I love your heart.
I love you too. Will you tell people how they can find you? Tell them all the ways they can find you, whether it's social media or your website. Tell them all the things. How can they connect with you?
Okay. So I am my website for my speaking platform. So this book is is my platform for speaking. So if you're interested in having me come speak at a women's retreat or at your church, at a women's Bible study, or any event, I would love to be honored to support you. You can find me at catherineschiffer.com. You can find me my fitness page at Fitness After 40 on Facebook. My nonprofit is onevoiceonemission.org, and you can find out about our mission with the curriculum and our sexual abuse awareness program. You can find me as a realtor on Catherine Schiffer is my Facebook, but DP Properties is my business page. I also have a website, dpprop.com. And you can Google my name, Catherine Schiffer. My tagline is Your Ripped Realtor. So if you look up hashtag Your Ripped Realtor, you'll find me there too. So I'm pretty easy to find in all facets.
We will make all of that information available in the show notes of the podcast. And if you're watching this on YouTube, all the information will be right below in the information below the video. And I think we're going to probably have to have you back on because we could talk forever about many, many different things. And so just thank you for being so courageous to continue to work so hard on healing and recovery. I believe wholeheartedly that God, if we walk into it, that God will never allow our pain to be wasted.
Yes.
And, he will, exactly like you're doing, he will use our pain to propel us, to heal us. And that healing is something that we are, I think, called on to share with other people so that they can be healed too.
Yeah.
And
I say for so long, I said, why me? Why me? Why me? Why me? Why me? And, in the book, I talk about this too. What if our greatest pain, the thing that has held us back and kept us stuck for so long, was actually to become our message? Our purpose is found in the pain. And we hear that so often. But take the pain and create a message in it. And create, we are God's hands and feet. He doesn't come down to the earth. He doesn't walk here anymore. He resides in us. And then we become his hands and his feet. And who best to walk someone through a particular pain than someone who's experienced that pain? So don't let it keep you stuck in victimization. Let it bring you out and to create a whole new you and your purpose in it.
Easier said than done, but so true. And
if I can do it, anyone can do it.
Well, I believe that. And, if you have the pleasure of connecting with her, you're going to fall in love with her immediately. She's just an amazing woman, friend, wife, mother, grandmother. Who would think you're a grandmother? You just are way too beautiful, sexy, and hot. I'm so grateful. Thank you for taking the time and being on this podcast. And I just can't wait to see what God's going to do now that the story is out. The book is like inches away from being out, and so many lives are going to be blessed. I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for what you're doing. I'm honored to be your friend, and I love you.
I love you too. Thank you.
Another remarkable, inspiring story of how God's love is so redemptive in our lives. It's par for the course here at Girl Power Alliance with the amazing, phenomenal stories and women that are part of our community here. Are you part of our community yet? You need to be. First of all, head over to girlpoweralliance.com and download our free 7-day devotional /planner. This is really just a great way to kind of get yourself on track with really good habits to help grow you spiritually, help grow your business if you're in business, or just kind of organize your life. It's free. All you have to do is go over there, click on the link there and download it. You'll have instant access. And if you're not already part of our community, it's time. Become a member. There are so many perks. There are so many reasons to be part of this community, and Catherine's just one of them. We're waiting for you. We cannot wait to meet you. Girl Power Alliance, where women grow.